boy, that was great. And then, a few months later, I think, maybe a half a year later, he brought home a Holocrafters HT37, and wow, that was like driving a Cadillac. That was great. It had a built-in VFO, and we never used it on phone. It was only CW then, and yeah, so those rigs were cool. And that NC200 was a great receiver. I wish we had kept it. My dad must have given it to one of his friends. My mom got that at a church rummage sale for $7, and it came with a matching speaker, and it worked right out. I mean, as soon as I plugged it in, it worked. I had to remove a mouse skeleton from the back of it, but the darn thing fired up, and I couldn't believe it was a very good receiver. I mean, it was pretty sensitive, and interesting band changing mechanism that they had in it, as I recall. So yeah, and just to answer the question on the Suzuki microphone, no, I didn't get it because it was an affinity to Suzuki motorcycles, although I did have one. A few years back, I had a Suzuki 850, an old one. But the microphone was just, I bought it because it was so cheap that the whole kit was cheap, and my kids wanted to do karaoke. This is when they were younger. So they plugged it into a little guitar amp in the basement, and we're, having karaoke sessions. And I just tried it out on the rig, and I had a Hi-Al's PR781, but everybody told me the Suzuki sounded brighter and better, so I went with that. Yeah, you mentioned the couplets, Paul, in the Globe King. Yeah, those are an issue. The ones that were in this rig were replaced by whoever owned it 2 times before that. But they replaced it with some strange values. I think the reason they did it is they were using the rig with a mod reactor, and that may have been why they changed it. But they had pretty small values for the coupling caps on the different audio stages, and I changed those to more traditional values. Fattened those up a bit, replaced a lot of resistors. I did put some feedback into one of the audio stages, and I did a few other audio mods. And when I use the outboard microphone, it connects to the second audio stage. It skips that 6SJ7 or something. Can't remember. The first audio tube there, and I can't remember the other many mods I've made. I had to replace the leads on the mod transformer. They shorted and went fireworks on me, and then I lost the B plus transformer. I had to replace that with a different model. And then I had to use a full wave bridge rectifier, and eliminated the tubes there in that circuit. So yeah, I've done a lot of work to it, but it's been stable for the last couple years, knock on wood. Ever since the B plus transformer went out, and I've replaced it. It's been doing good. The transformer I replaced it with was not stock, and I had to, buck the windings to find the right voltages there. But it all worked out good. So yeah, it's good to chat with you, Paul. I'm really enjoying the QSO here. Yeah, the motorcycle on my QRZ page is now a BMW. That's my latest. And I really like it. I just changed the oil in it yesterday, getting it ready for the spring season here. WZ8J. Hopefully I'm holding up okay. WZ8J.
WZ8J. WA3VJB. Another nice transmission. a little bit crowded on the low side, but by slipping the passband to the high side, it's completely in the clear. Sent you an email too. Yeah, very good on the various points there. Well, my very first excursion into the circuitry of the Collins was the same thing you did, was to change some of the values of the coupling and bypass caps in the audio stage. The values that Collins selected were not wholesome enough for my taste. And thanks to some advice from Timtron way back when, HLR, he said, you know, here's what you need to do in quoted values and where they should be swapped. And I felt it wasn't that intrusive on the original circuitry, which was something, you know, at the time you wanted to know whether you ought to have preserved or not, that I couldn't get in there and swap those values, and, you know, they could be easily replaced. And it wound up improving the audio considerably, because the Collins has pretty good iron in it. So that was sort of an exercise that you did there your own, and you've made pretty good audio out of it. And yeah, I also suffered a power transformer failure. Apparently the 32B series transmitters, I guess it's the plate transformer. It's a multi-winding transformer. And when they originally made them, the tension on one set of windings in the thing was too tight. And after many, many years of heating and contraction, there often is a breach in that particular winding. And it doesn't have much to do with how you've treated the transmitter or any kind of a transient that might have moved through or any other problem that you could control from use. It was simply a manufacturing defect that took, 60 some odd years to show up. And of course there was no way to find the exact replacement transformer. So what we did, and this was the same guy, the grown-up, who gave me my novice test, he thought sure I had caused the problem by misusing it. Kind of a skeptical guy. But he found a replacement transformer that produced the right voltages, but was physically larger than the cabinet where this one sits. So it's the same kind of problem that I think you encountered with the Globe King, is that it wasn't a correct replacement in the thing. And by the time I got to college, I got deep enough into the AM community that people knew about these sort of problems. Maybe not mine specifically, but transformer rewinding places existed. Individuals who had the turns counter and a winding loom and that whole thing. And this guy was down in Florida somewhere, Jess Price, I'll never forget him. And he said, oh yeah, I've done a couple of them, send it on down. Well, the problem was that the transformer was potted, Kevin. It had a metal outer housing on it that was full of tar. And he didn't want to get into that part of the repair. He's happy to take it on, but he wanted it depotted and ready to be worked on. Oh man, how am I going to do this? So I was taking some lower level courses in chemistry, Chem 103 and maybe a 200 level chem class as just part of the major prerequisites. And I was friends with one of the lab technicians, a graduate student, and she said, well, here, if we could find an old container of some kind, we can put this thing up on a block of metal and just cook it overnight, and it'll drain right into the container, and you'll have your core. This is great. It's like, okay, cool. So, one afternoon I brought the transformer in, and she put it up on this block of metal in the pan, and whoop, into the oven it went. And the next day, all the tar had drained out. I mean, she put it on, cool enough that it was just enough to melt the tar without any fire hazard or what have you. All the tar drained into the container, and I had a slightly coated laminate core in the windings that I was able to, once it cooled, it was just kind of waxy. It wasn't goopy or anything. Wrapped it up carefully and sent it off to Jess Price, and he rewound it just perfectly. And it's still in the transmitter to this day. So it's pretty cool how you can kind of do a workaround for something that you thought was doomed for the transmitter.